Okay, we are live. We are live. We are excuse us for laughing, guys. This was an episode. Like this was
A serious episode about serious things. You're muted. What happened, ma'am?
I'm back, I think, right? You hear me?
Yes.
Cool. I don't know what happened with my mic just now. But yeah, I guess we're talking about the next episode in Dark Side of the Ring, Nick Gage. I want to say, like, if you go to indie shows, New Yorkers and people from Jersey would probably, like, I guess, got who he was from, because again, I've seen him wrestle live. However, this was an episode. I'll let you start with your thoughts on this episode.
I mean, I've never been like very deep into the whole deathmatch wrestling thing. It's never really been my thing, just because I don't personally want to see, my favorites like really, really, putting their bodies like through hell.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just for me, I don't like to see that, because I just, I want you to put on a show, but I also want you to preserve your life and be careful, of course. How can I say that you're someone that I love and I'm a fan of if I want to see you like hurt yourself to entertain me? I don't know.
Yeah, like as I told you before we started this, I seen him live personally, and I feel like a deathmatch works if it goes with the storyline to an extent. So like if this person is so hardcore and the only way to like end this feud is do a death match, then I'm for it. But just to do death matches just because, I don't really necessarily care for that type of style of wrestling. Just like, oh, we're gonna have a death match because we need one in the show. So here we go. Here's this guy and some other person, and it's just like, no, we don't need to do that. We don't need that. Like, and that's my thing. So I know that's like, at least from the time I've seen him, that's all he gives. But it's like, okay, I guess, I mean, if this what the life we're gonna do, I mean, what can I'm just person watching wrestling. I just feel like it should be done, death matches should be done if it allows for it in the feud or in the story where it makes sense to me. Like, I just can't be having death matches just because. So, like, make some sense to me. Like, okay, this is why this has to be a death match. So that's my issue. I mean, but we can get into that before. I don't want to get into it already.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot for me. But can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, it was definitely a lot, but I mean, it was an interesting episode. I'm not going to say it was bad. It definitely was not bad. It just is not my specific cup of tea of wrestling. But and so there was a lot going on for this episode. Definitely was a lot. So where do you want to begin? Because there's a lot going on right now.
I guess, I mean, he did so. I feel like his life, like, he was doing so much stuff outside of the ring. There's like, they talked about his wrestling, but it's like, all right, dude, you and Robin Banks. Like, I guess as I mentioned, we could start there. So I think the funniest part of that whole scenario. Hey, George. I think the funniest part of that whole scenario was when John Moxley was like, so you wear a bandana going to the ring, but the one time you probably need to cover your face, you don't. And I'm like, so I'm not the only person who asked this question, because I'm just like, so we just gonna go to a bank. And then it killed me when he was like, he didn't know a camera was there. So you've never been to a bank before when there's cameras everywhere. Just the whole like, yeah, I'm looking in the camera, and I'm like, but dude. And then the thing is, he was dressed mad normal. Like, you didn't even try to have, like, you had on this bright ass blue, so you didn't even try to have anything look like less inconspicuous. You had this big bright ass blue outfit on, no mask, and dead ass just all in the camera. And I'm just like, you wanted to go to jail. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You was bold that you didn't even care that you was going to jail. And then the fact that he was just like, oh, I wanted to spend the money, and the first place was Atlantic City, that annoyed me. Because I'm like, if you're that desperate that you have to rob a bank, and you robbing banks without covering your face, at least being smart enough to cover your face, how is Atlantic City? I feel like your goal should be like, if I'm this desperate, maybe I should buy some food, maybe I should get a hotel because I have no place to go. No, I went to Atlantic City, and that annoyed the hell out of me because I was like, this is like, you know, that show is like the how I got caught, and it's like criminals do this really dumbass shit, and then the cops catch them. That's the vibe I got from that, and I was highly, highly agitated because I was just like, so this is what we do it after you rob a bank. Like, okay, I mean, I guess.
Just very confused. Like, but then think, okay, so you're telling me that you wear a mask all the time, like a little covering to go to the ring, and the one time you rob a bank, you just go free face.
I didn't understand. I didn't. The fact was his people, his support circle. I'm like, so not what are y'all going to just tell him? Like, why are y'all making it like this is funny? Like, I just need to like. Okay, I know I'm laughing right now, but I'm laughing at the stupidity of it all because I'm not understanding. Like, there's a whole channel dedicated to people doing crime and getting caught. Why? Why would you think I'm gonna do something that's a felony? Let me commit a felony and not cover my face. Like, and then his support circle was just like, oh yeah, well, and I'm like, no, not one of y'all was like, listen, dude, get your shit together. Like, I'm like, this couldn't be my. I would hope if I got down to that level of like I'm spiraling, a friend of mine would be like, listen, Katrina, let me tell you about yourself. I would hope my friend would hurt my feelings and tell me about myself. There's no way I want these many friends around me and they're just like, it's fine, you know, like it's we all have tough times. Yeah, we do, but no. What? No. Like, I'm sorry, no. Why is that the option?
Around you, that's the worst thing. You need people that are going to tell you about yourself.
And that annoyed me. And then even with his like when they were saying that he was able to keep coming back, and I'm like, I need to find, like, give me a job. I could fuck up this many times, and then, like, you know what, Katrina, it's fine, you know, get your shit together and come back again. Like, find me that job. And I get that he has a fan base, and I totally understand that the people who are really hard into like the death matches, I totally get that. But it's like, this is the same thing people were saying about Jeff, and you know, I love me some Jeff Hardy. That's my guy and all. But this is the same thing people were saying that you got to not enable him to keep doing these type of mistakes. Meaning, if he needs to suffer a bit, you know, like he doesn't have his job. And I'm like, yes, in this particular, I love him, but you got to kind of be better and want to be a better person. So if this is the kind of life you're living, why do you have this many, like his friend Brett? I'm like, all right, dude. Like, I get being a ride or die friend. I totally understand that, but also no. No, like you gotta put your foot down. Like, even if you called him an asshole, like that's nice, but if you're still like, I'm gonna call you an asshole, a couple of months later I'm gonna still put you on the show, well then how is he learning anything if you're still enable him into that point where he probably feels like he can do it? Just I don't know. I was really irritated by a lot of that because we see, like, literally Dark Side of the Ring is what we look at wrestlers in the dark parts of their lives. A lot of times it is drugs and alcohol involved, so I know this, but it's like not one of you guys was just like, come on, dude, get your shit together. And I mean, I'm hoping in 2021 he's in a better space. But then I also wasn't really sure what some of the stuff he was saying. And I'm like, well, are you in a better space? Like, are you like still having a good old time? Like, even I think the situation with the urine when he was like pretending to use when he got caught using somebody else's urine. And I'm like, the fact that he even did this and he still got to come back, and I'm like, you know what happens when anybody else do these type of tests, right? And they either use somebody else's urine or use a device to pretend. And I'm like, so how, like, we just gonna make this like this is a good fun joke? Like, I don't know. I feel like that part was like really irritating me throughout the whole episode because I'm like, you guys are so enabling this behavior. Like, none of you guys, like, you can be a good friend and still like tell, you know, your friend. I would hope I did something stupid enough like that a friend would be like, Katrina, no, like, right, shut that down, like, you know, something. And I don't know, it really irritated me about like most of the episode. I was just like shaking my head like, come on guys, like, can we do that?
Especially with Brett Lauderdale, the GCW owner. I feel like him always saying, you know, you have a place to come back to, like, every time was like his way of saying, I can keep messing up, I can keep doing this, and I know when I come back, you'll have me here. He should have been like, no, after first week. Especially, what was the thing? He broke into his house and was sleeping in there with his girlfriend. And and he kicked him out, rightfully so, because why are you in my house? Why didn't you call me or tell me you were coming? Like, it seems like Brett really cares about him. I feel like if he called him and said, hey, I need a place to stay, he probably would have said yes. Why would you break in?
Yeah, exactly. And then that's what killed me when he was like, well, I had no place to go. And I'm like, dude, are we gonna ignore why you had no place to go? It's not like people was just being mean to you and be like, you know what, Nick, you need to go. Like, no, you're doing things that were very questionable. And personally, friend or not, if you're doing this much shenanigans, I will kick you the fuck out too, with no questions. Like, you clearly don't want my help. Like, clearly.
Me, but
and I don't understand, like, how is the logical answer was to break in? Like, I'm like, I would have not, oh, you want to break in like a criminal, so I'm going to call so let me call the cops that you to do criminal activity. Let me, you know, like, I didn't understand. I didn't understand how, like,
if he broke something, I'm like, come on now, this is sick. What the hell is going on? That's crazy to me. And then he talking about in the interview, he's like, fuck him. What?
That was another thing. I was like, how are you this upset when they were help? Like, yeah, they got tired, but then they still let you back in. How are you mad, bro? Like, you had probably the amount of chances he had is more than the cheating boyfriends have on Maury. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. I am so sorry. Like, how many times we see, like, oh, he did 20 bad things to me, but I still love him, and then you boo-hoo it on Maury. He had more chances than that, and he was still sitting here, like, talking about F him. The audacity. Like, you had the nerve to talk about F him. Like, no, how about F you, okay? How about F you?
A different universe? Is this real life or is it fantasy? Like, what is happening here? Why are you upset? I'm confused.
Yeah, it was entitlement, and then his girlfriend was really irritating me too, because she was just like, you know, he like annoys me sometimes, and like, you know, he does things. I'm just like, okay, whatever, and I'm like, no, like, no, ma'am. I need somebody to just, you know, you just shake a person and be like, listen, dude, get it together. Like, we all make mistakes, we all mess up, we all have things we might not want people to know, and that's fine, but I just felt I didn't understand how he got the Dark Side of the Ring episode. And this is like I said, I get this is supposed to be the Dark Side of Wrestling, and I totally understand that. But I just needed to know, what did I learn? Like, usually when I watch Dark Side of the Ring episode, I'm like, so, oh, this is like I really did not learn. Like, I didn't know this beforehand. You know, that type of level. I'm just like, so he's a crazy I'm like, I know this already. Like all these like death matches. Well, I know this.
Knowledge.
Yeah, him being arrested. Well, this is in a newspaper, so this I know this already.
Yeah.
His drug issue. Well, he literally talked about that at shows. Like, you know, he'll just go on a tangent like after a match, and he'll just start rambling. So I was like, I personally seen him do this. So what did I learn from this Dark Side of the Ring outside of like, I mean, I guess like I just feel like usually these documentary type shows, I want to know something I did that I couldn't find out before the documentary, and I didn't feel like I learned anything. And it was just literally you guys were glorifying this guy as like the guy of death matches, and that I think he even said he was better than ECW, and he was like, well, F them because we're like more bolder and more crazier. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, but like, dude, like, let's not act like, I mean, wrestlers already got a really short lifespan, unfortunately, sometimes. Right. Like, so you just okay with the fact that your lifespan might be a lot less because you want to do these crazy ass matches? Even I think when he was on fire, and I'm like, dude, and I'm just like,
I was scared every time I saw him do one of these things. I'm just scared. I'm like, oh my god, what? Why are you doing this?
And then he was like, oh, I was trying to stop, drop, and roll. And I'm like, first of all, I think in a scenario where you was like flailing like that, I don't think the stop, drop, and roll, you was thinking properly of how you're supposed to stop, drop, and roll. Because it's like, well, that shit didn't work. And I'm like, do you like, and then they showed the clip. So I'm like, did you not see what was happening here? I wonder why this really didn't work that well in this scenario. And then why did you need to put yourself on, like, what was the purpose of, like, he kept saying the storytelling in the matches. And I was like, well, in that particular match, what story was you told by getting lit on fire? I just need to know. Like, if this is what you're saying you're doing, and I'm telling a story, like, I have my way of telling a story using death matches, okay, fine. What was the purpose of the being lit on fire in that particular match? Like, to the point where your girlfriend was like, I told him not to do it before the match. I'm like, this had nothing to do. You just want to see, I'm just into some crazy shit. Let me just light my ass on fire. And I'm like, yeah, but I like you can still try to make it make some kind of sense that I'm like, I don't like it necessarily, but I guess it makes sense. Like, what were we doing? And I just didn't understand, like, why did somebody was like, you know what, guys, this is going to be the next episode. Like, I felt like like I said, I went from Brian Pillman, of like wanting all these great things for Brian Pillman, to be like, but why?
Yeah.
That's literally the vibe I went to this next episode. And again, this is like anybody who does death matches, power to you, because personally, I cannot see a bunch of those. Like, I can maybe see one, and then I'm good for a few months. Like, I don't need to see any for any time soon. I just feel like it has to work for the story. But I was like, you legit, I don't think you have regular matches. It's every match you ever have is a death match. And then it's like, okay, I guess. And then now let's bring me to the whole David Arquette, though. The whole David Arquette thing. Because even he was being rude at the David Arquette. I'm like, yo, he gave you one role, dude. He said the one thing he didn't want you to do was to cut him. Even though he knew he was going to bleed, even though he knew he wasn't really ready for this. And you just dead ass took that pizza cutter and start cutting. I'm like, first of all, I would have been ready to fight after that anyway. So we're not gonna finish this match because now you ignored the one rule I gave you. Like, maybe I wasn't ready for this death match if I'm David Arquette. Maybe I got in over my head, which David did say he's a bit in over his head because he's not like a wrestler.
Yeah.
Totally understand that. But then you gave her one request was not to cut his face because he's an actor and all.
Right.
And not that you're like gonna like DiCaprio or anything, like he's not that level of acting, but I understood the request and I'm like, dude, you had one job. Here you go, like I'm gonna do extra, and then you do all the slicing, and then I was like, dude, and then it made me think of when I saw him in 2019, where we had to stop the whole show because he did something and he did a little too much, and the guy got dizzy and passed out, and he was bleeding heavy, and then the ambulance had to take him out during the show. This wasn't like after the show. This happened in the middle of the match. They had to pause the match, and he apologized, but I'm like, but are you sorry though? Because you can tell you was hurting this. Like, you can tell this is no longer part of you just doing deathmatch stuff. Like, you were trying to really hurt this guy, and then the guy was looking at him like, yo, what the F are you doing? Like, the wrestler. And I'm just like, so y'all fine with this? Other fans in the arena, like, you guys, y'all okay with this kind of, like, this is fine to y'all. Like, y'all find nothing wrong with the fact that this is a bit much for, like, what story was he telling here? Because it's like, clearly you go a little too far, and that's not the first time with David Arquette, apparently, because, again, I saw this in 2019 with him doing it a little too far, and I'm like, dude, like, same thing. I think it was with a pizza cutter, and he just got a little too crazy with the slicing up, and I'm just like, all right, calm that down. So he was like, fuck David Arquette. I'm like, bro, he gave you one request. Like, you had one rule to follow. All you had to do was
like, it wasn't a list. It was just one.
He just said you could probably kick his ass. He knew you were gonna kick his ass, and he knew this. And I'm like, he was gonna get his ass kicked by you. Just don't cut the man's face. You just had to go to his face. You just had to do it. It's like, you know what? Fuck you, David Arquette. That's the vibe I got from that. Like, the ghost face from Scream didn't do enough for you. Let me OD right now. And that's what he did. That is the vibe I got from that whole scenario. I was just like, he must have felt the way that you lived in Scream, and he just wanted to, like, show us about, because what was the purpose of that? Like, why did you do that to poor David?
What I kind of got from it, and I feel like this is something I notice when celebrities want to jump into the ring, is you have the wrestlers and they kind of want to, like, when anyone steps into their, world that's from some, Hollywood or whatever, they want to, like, make you, earn your due or whatever. Like, kind of like, what Miz went through.
Yeah.
Like that. And I feel like a little bit, maybe that's what he was trying to do, which I don't agree with, because it's like, damn, like, can't nobody have a career change? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't understand that. And it just, honestly, it came unprofessional, because it's like, obviously, that makes people not want to work with you, because it's like, I asked you to, respect my wishes, and I respect yours. You don't. That makes me not want to work with you. Why would you do that? And, David Arquette is a, big star. He might have connections. I don't see why he did that. I really don't. I felt bad for David. I really did.
I mean, I felt bad for him partially because he, like, said he wanted to, like, make up for what happened with the whole WCW thing. And I'm like, well, I didn't really care about WCW, so I didn't care that she was champion or whatever. But I understood, like, how did this guy beat the actual wrestler? And I totally understand that respect. Like, okay, as a fan, why is somebody who doesn't wrestle is winning the championship? So I totally get that vibe. So if you wanted to make up for that to the fans by going do something really crazy like a death match, fine. But it's like, I thought the biggest part between any wrestler, no matter what kind of match it is the trust between the two of them. Like, the trust between you and the other wrestler, Like, you guys got some kind of respect enough that you guys can work this match and be done with it. And that was my issue, because it was like, he said maybe David didn't understand like how serious it was gonna get, but it's like, okay, you still could have like gave him, like, dude, all dude said was don't cut his face. And I'm like, I wouldn't want to get cut in the face. So I totally understand that. Like, I'm not an actor, but don't cut my face. Like, I don't want you to cut my face, or, you know, I understood and why he was saying that it was hard for him to trust him with the rest of the match. And I'm like, yeah, because you took him out to eat. And the thing was, Nick was like real hard about it. He's like, yeah, I went out on David's dime. So you went to this thing, he had some steaks. You talking about how happy you was about eating on David's dime, and he paid for your meal before this match. And then you were just like, fuck you, David. I'm gonna do this anyway. That's the vibe I got from that. Just like, it's like he did all this to let you know that he was ready to leave, and like, you probably was gonna win the match, because, you know, this is your playground. This is what you're good at. This is what you're used to, and this is what you do instead. Like, I'm just like, you know what, Nick, this is shenanigans. It was just full shenanigans. And again, it was just like, it was a good thing. And I'm just like, but how, what? I mean, is it really though? Like, I didn't understand. I was trying to understand most of the episode of certain things, and I'm just like, but why?
Yeah. Like, get to the next level. Chill out.
And then it was funny, I think, like, not that his brother passed, that wasn't funny. It was actually very sad. But when his friend Brett was like, oh, they changed places, I was like, but did they really? Like, he was like implying that Nick was such an opposite now. And I'm like, well, clearly they were both struggling with some mental stuff. Clearly.
Right.
And Chris took that, you know, that's the route he took. But like, to say it as if Nick Gage was sitting here like had a kumbaya and now he was Gandhi, like, let's not do that. Like, clearly he still is like, fuck you, fuck everybody else. Even when he was talking to you, and I'm like, so we're just not gonna acknowledge your part in any of this? We're gonna just it's just like somebody told you no, and you're just like, well, fuck you. And I'm like, bro, in this situation, you were wrong. Like, I didn't understand that. Like, it was just like no type of like accountability for him. Like, you know, I didn't understand. Hey, Trey. What's up? I don't know what I think is like being weird, but hey, what's up?
Bananas no longer exclusive to only Tuesdays.
Hey, Sharmeen, what is up? But yeah, I was just really upset by this, that Vice thought this was the okay to do right after Brian Pillman. And this is not discrediting, you know, people who like him or anything. It's just, I was really annoyed by this, because I was like, you want the momentum to keep going when you're watching Dark Side of the Ring. And I was just like, oh, okay, we're just giving anybody stories. Let me have one. Okay, let me talk about the time I missed Jeff Hardy at House of Glory, and it started the path of rage of how angry I got watching his Instagram stories about me not meeting him, and then I go to indie shows. Like, imagine me getting a resolution, how ridiculous that would sound. Like, you'll be like, okay, why do I care? That's literally what I felt watching this, honestly. Like, I'm just like, I guess, I mean, deathmatch people, yay. Like, I feel like of all the people who done death matches over the year, we could have picked other people to do death matches that I would have been more in tune with. Let me see how you decided to do death matches as part of your wrestling career. Right. And that's not the part. I didn't understand. I don't get it. I will not.
It's like,
okay, Trey, don't do that.
It's almost like, and that scares me for the future. You know, people who want to like do that.
And yeah, I know there's a whole niche for it. There's a whole community, and that's all they do. And if that's what you want to do, like, personally, that's a bit much. Again, I feel like it could be very dangerous, and this might end up really bad for somebody, God forbid. But I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like maybe if he seemed more apologetic with some of the stuff that he was doing, I would not feel this annoyed. But he literally was just like, fuck everybody. And I'm just like, but no, like, can you at least be accountable for some of the stuff that you did? Like, just a little bit of accountability would be nice. You know, like, you know, that was kind of fucked up thing that my homie Brett, I broke into his house. No, it's fucking, I'm like, no, like, bro, how many times do he need to help you? Like, just no. How rude. And then the fact that Brett was just smiling all regular, and I'm like, no, this is what I'm talking about. You are a horrible friend with regards to like being accountable. You can be a ride and die friend, but you gotta also know how to put, you know, your friends in their place a couple of times. I was just like, no, could be my friend. We would not be friends after this.
As well.
Yes. Rest in peace to New Jack. And he was not a crazy, you know, guy. He was crazy. He did crazy shit, but, you know, God rest his soul, because, you know, he was young. I think
Exactly.
he's like 48, I believe.
Well, that's very young.
Yeah, that like that, you know, for his wife, because I didn't see his wife's post yesterday, you know, prayers to her and his family. That has to suck. Trace, we're gonna stop this shenanigans. Listen, the only person I acknowledge as any tribal anything is Roman Reigns. Joe is the only person. Okay, that's it. I acknowledge no one else. Okay, Chris tried to acknowledge stuff and he got denied. Just he tried to acknowledge me and I'm like, are you Joseph? No, you're not him. Okay then. Well, the only person I acknowledge. That's the only person I'm acknowledging is Joe. Okay, Mr. Roman Reigns. I will not acknowledge anybody else. Okay, I'm just saying.
I acknowledge Finn Balor.
Just saying.
Also, I thought the whole thing with when he had the match with was it Thumbtack Jack, as his name was?
Yeah.
And he had the light bulb and it sliced his artery and he still to wrestle. I'm like, sir, is this really how you want to go? You're bleeding profusely. They nicked one of your arteries. Go to the hospital. Stop.
And yeah, like I said, I get wanting to finish a match. I get like the show must go on. I understand that to an extent, but it's also like I think a lot of people don't realize that at the end of the day, unless these fans are like die hard fans, once you retire or you croak, those fans will move the fuck on and find somebody else. And it's not just with wrestlers. This is how I feel with a lot of other athletes too. Like they put so much effort and energy into the sport they want to play or do, and then God forbid something happens, and then those fans will find, you know, those coaches, those companies, they will find somebody else to replace you. And maybe you won't be replaceable. You know, maybe some people you can't replace, but you know that mindset is like, you know, the level of like their life is not going to stop if you pass early. Like they'll still find somebody else do something crazy too, and that's my issue with that. It's like the whole like, but I gotta finish. And like, no, the fuck you don't. Like if it's that bad, where that first of all, I'm not really fond of blood during matches, and then my reason is because no, that's bodily fluids, and I don't. No, we don't do. If it ain't bodily fluids that I okayed in certain scenarios, I don't want that touch. You know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
even in those type of situations where I okayed some bodily fluids, I don't want bodily fluids touching me. And so I'm also funny about like matches where it's like over the top bleeding. But fine, if that's the case, if that's what you have to do, fine. But then it's like you're like you don't even realize that. What if this will be the last that this is that match for you, and then you're gone, and then what? And why the fans might be sad a few months, they'll move. They're gonna move the fuck on. You know, it's not like they're gonna sit there and be like devastated 5-10 years later, because that's just not how it works for any fans. Like unless you're like diehards, and there's those diehards who just won't, who hurt like they're hurt. But most times, 9 times out of 10, they move on and they, you know, they go on with their lives, and you're sitting here like, but the fans, like I that was part of me mentioning that match in 2019. I was like, you can tell the guy who was wrestling was pissed, because it was like you can tell you was cutting too deep, and he kept going until the point where the guy couldn't even get back up. And then the fact that they had to call the ambulance, and the ambulance had to stop the match, and it was like a 20-minute freaking pause because Nick Gage didn't know when to chill. And I'm like, see, that's my issue. It's like if this guy is trusting you in a death match, like we can still be crazy, we can still be bloody, and we can still, you know, give the match that people want. Well, some people want. Then do that, but don't do it in a way where like now this person's looking at you and feeling a way about it. Because I was mad for that guy. I was like, if this was me, once I left the hospital, I'm gonna be ready to fight. Like, and also you had one job to help me during this match, and you want to just keep cutting me up like I'm a slice of pizza, because that's the vibe I got. Like, and I'm just like, it just that was my issue. And I feel like his whole like, well, fuck you or fuck this, or like, but I'm a tough guy, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess like. Right. I'm sure people who have bar fights feel like they're tough guys. I don't even understand what that logic is. Like, and that's the issue. I don't know. I don't understand how, you know, like I said, I get that wrestlers do it. You know, John Moxley's good for death matches before, you know, he was like Dean Ambrose. He did it. I've seen quite a few death matches, and there's a couple of Japanese wrestlers that had decent death matches, and I was okay with it. But it was like, you can tell when they knew when to chill, and they knew just enough to be like, yikes, and then move on. But I was like, Nick, sometimes you just do a little too much. So you gotta know when to hold it back just a little bit. And he really just was like, no, I'm fine with this, and I'm fine, and fuck that, and fuck this, and oh, I got all the fans in Europe and everything. And I'm like, all right, Beyonce, because like chill that, calm that the fuck down. Like you got that level, like the amount of, I don't know. It just, I'm okay with people being confident in their skills, whatever they can do, but I'm also not fond of egotistical. That's the vibe I got when he said that. Like all over 50 states. And I'm like, well, I live in New York and I am not part of that group. So I'm just saying, I'm not even part of the group. You wrestled. I'm not sitting here like, oh my God, I can't wait to see you make it. I'm not doing that shit. And it was just,
because I just feel like I don't want this to be something that's glorified, you know, like I don't want people to feel like they have to go to that extent to entertain anyone ever. I don't want you to risk your life to entertain me ever.
See, Trey, that was on during the episode, he pretty much told ECW to fuck them because he was more dangerous and more crazy than they were. Those his exact words was, well, they was mad at me, but fuck them, I'm like more crazier and willing to do more extreme things. And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess. I guess. I mean, if that helps you sleep better, I mean, I just feel like it's a like I said, you can, obviously there's an audience for it. Clearly people do like to watch dive matches. I have to watch it in moderation. I cannot watch it just to watch it. I cannot watch a whole show dedicated to it because I need it. If you're saying you're giving me ring story work, then make that death match make sense to me. Like, what is this death match going to do for this feud? And then I can understand it. But just to have a death match every time, and I'm really not sure why this death match is he's having a death match. Well, what happened for them to get to this death match? Like, what was the story before this? And then it's just like, oh, okay. And I'm like, but can somebody explain to me what the story was before we got to this place of a death match? Nobody could ever tell me what the story is. Like, so nobody knew what the problem with the feud is, that they're gonna end it in a death match. Like, what happened for them to get here? Exactly. And I feel like that's all you do. Well, then what feud are we really having if every single one of your matches is a death match? It's like, well, then just say, I would rather you just be honest and say, oh, I just want to kick somebody's ass really bloodily, and this is what we're doing, instead of saying, oh, well, we're telling a story. What story are we telling though?
Exactly.
Because he said that a few times, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, I didn't know half those matches. I didn't know what the story was. And like I said, I've seen him wrestle a few times, and every time it was just like, oh, he's doing a death match. And I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, I guess, like, this might be the time for me to go use the bathroom or something, or look real confused. Like, what is happening right now? And nobody ever could explain to me what the purpose was. And I'm like, y'all fans, don't y'all know? Y'all would know that I can tell somebody a storyline that if I know, ask me about Roman Reigns, I'm going to tell you the storyline. He's head table. I'll start listing. So I'm like, if you fans explain to me what the purpose of the storyline is. Nobody never knows though. It's just I don't understand.
And in my mind, for deathmatch, finality. So when you're starting with a deathmatch, it's like this is supposed to be like this is it. This is the last straw. This is not the hey, I just met you. Let's kill each other. Like
that's what I thought it was, like a death match supposed to be like, no, we really gotta settle it in this way. Like, it gotta be bloody, it gotta be brutal. And in that regards, I understand it. Like, fine, okay. Like, it makes sense if this is how you have to end this, if this person's been doing some messed up shit to you over the feud, and you're like, no, I'm not gonna really kick your ass. And I'm like, all right, but just like this feud just happened like 2 seconds ago, and now it's like, no, blood, barbed wire, glass. Like, but how we get here? Like, this is an escalation already. Like, the level of escalation is not necessary. But I mean, I guess people love it. I don't understand. Listen, we talked about this, Jeff. Like, he had one job. One job was just not to cut David Arquette in the face, and he did it anyway. And like I said, couldn't be me, because after I healed, we've been fighting for real. Like, take this outside the wrestling ring. Now you can go to scrap, because I asked you one thing, was not to cut my face.
Right.
You cannot cut, like, that's the one thing I'm asking you. Knowing I'm gonna get my ass kicked, and knowing I'm gonna be bloody and messed up and bruised up. Just don't cut my face because I'm acting. Nah, fuck that. And he takes the thing out. I'm like, yo, dude. And then he took it around his tongue too, and I'm like,
I just thought it was so shady. It's like he just did it because he could. I didn't like it.
Yeah, like he was trying to teach him a lesson or lock him down a peg. And I'm like, I think David Arquette made it very clear that he knew he was kind of a little bit over his head here. Like, he's going to get his ass kicked. Like, he might not have understood the levels of crazy some of you deathmatch people get, but he already knew he was going to probably lose this match. Like, I'm sure he was aware he was losing. And he was going to get his ass kicked. I'm sure he knew this. And you just had to keep going. And I'm like, that's the issue. It's like, it can't be okay because it's a death match, but then you get mad at other regular wrestlers for going too far. Like,
right.
now people are still upset about, like, oh, Bret Hart got screwed. Y'all still mad about this? How many years later, I still feel a way about Vince McMahon about this, which was a start. And honestly, if I was Vince, I would do the same fucking shit, honestly.
Right.
Because if you leave in my company, I don't care about how you feel when you leave. You're right, like, personally.
Oh, well, I just don't want to lose it. Well, I just don't give a damn what you want.
Basically, I get it. Like, Brett might have done a great things for the company. That's totally understandable. But if you're leaving my company to go to my competition, I really don't want to care about how you feel. That went out the window when you signed that new contract. So the fact that people still feel a way about this, but that y'all can try to excuse the nonsense of David Arquette makes no sense to me. Because it's like, so you can excuse David Arquette, like, oh, he should have known better. It was a death match. But no, Bret Hart, guys, he got screwed. Like, y'all upset more than Bret is upset still about it. Like, y'all act like y'all married Bret and y'all having pillow talks with Bret Hart, and he's telling you how he felt when it happened. Like, y'all calm down about that, but this is okay. And I'm like, no, you can't pick and choose. That's not how this works. Like, if you're gonna be mad about that, be mad that this man really got cut hard. Like, he got cut kind of bad, and he was upset, and he had every right to be upset about that. Because I would have been upset about that. Like, and again, we'd be fighting for real. Like, F a death match. Meet me outside.
Like, when TMZ was following the other day, like, oh, how you feeling? Get out my face.
Me. Okay, if I would have flipped the camera over, I would have understood if he would have knocked the cameraman over, because it's like, Nick, you know, he violated. I'm like, you have one, like, the whole thing. I thought it was at least wrestling or in general was supposed to be a level of trust between each other. Like, we're entertaining people. Let's be able to tell whatever we're doing, whatever the match is, whatever the gimmick is, whatever the case may be. Let's tell it in a way that I know you're not going to really purposely try to harm me. I felt like he was purposely trying to harm him, like he wanted to knock him down a peg, and I didn't understand that, because I'm like, there's already views of how people look at death matches as it is. Why would you make it worse by purposely trying to injure somebody who was, you know, knew he was going to get his ass kicked? Like, he was aware. Not that I take David Arquette necessarily really seriously as a wrestler, because I don't. Let's not. Or like he's this world-renowned actor, like he's about to pop up with some Oscars, because that's a whole lie. I'm not going to do that. But I understood the logic. Like, I understood him saying that he, you know, have to make money with parts of his face. Like, you can't just fuck this face just because. And I'm like, yeah, I understood that. That wasn't like a crazy request. And just like I said, Nick Gage, the whole freaking episode was just like, fuck everything and fuck everybody. And I'm like, but no, like, how do you still got friends? Like, you didn't burn all your bridges? Because I personally would have not been your friend after that. Like, we good.
Yeah, again, Brett Lauderdale is a saint. And, you know, a lot of people don't deserve a friend like that, because he just was through thick and thin. Just, yeah, I'm down, you're good, I'm there. And, you know, it's hard to get friends like that. It really is.
Why did he deserve to get his ass kicked? If you mean because WCW, maybe. Well, I didn't give a shit about WCW anyway, though. So, I mean, it bothered me personally. But, I mean, no, he shouldn't have won. That's not his fault. That
and
he
maybe he's like a little bit, but well, first of all, why do you have a pizza cutter in a ring? Why do you have a pizza cutter? I don't understand.
Okay, and listen, like I said, I get that death matches, you got those hardcore matches, you're using ladders, tables, chairs, you got like kendo sticks, you got like crutches, whatever people be using, totally understand. It's like a whole bunch of crazy shit under the ring. I understand that aspect, but it's just like, just because y'all people mad that he won the title how many freaking years ago in WCW does not mean the man need to have his face cut. Like, and I think that's the thing. If people are still mad about David Arquette about that, and you're still mad about like, or mad at Bret Hart for getting screwed by Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon, blah blah blah, then I can understand why David Arquette was mad. I understand. He was the one that got cut.
I didn't get that. I thought that was
Stop it. I mean, if maybe he's in New York, maybe, but even then, I'm like, if I got time to eat a good slice of New York City pizza, I don't got time to be bloody, because I don't want that, you know, on my pizza and stuff. Hey, man, what's up? And yes, happy birthday, Chris.
Woo!
Happy birthday, getting old, okay?
Yes. The next present I have for you is another loss. Another prison.
I'm gonna say you need some crutches, get a walker, you know. Let me give you a life alert. I can order you one of those. Just saying. There are options, you know. When you start getting old, there's options. I can start calling for nursing homes, you know, just in case a couple of years need the visits. You know, I'm so listen, I'm just saying. You're older than me, so I mean, listen.
You
Just
know what was funny to me? That I no, we already proved that's not true.
clearly,
We already proved
clearly,
that's not true.
curly start. I'm sorry. I could have sworn you lost. Okay, multiple times from
Yes,
what I'm being told. Like, so
yeah.
I'm just saying that. And you actually, and I beat you before. I believe the first time you lost your title for UPR, I was the one who took it from you. Could have sworn that's how that worked the first time, but we're gonna let you have, you know, your little birthday bragging, even though you lost. Because I could have sworn I was the first person to take a title from you before. Could have sworn that's what happened when I became champion, you know, back then. But
Oh my gosh.
see, look at him wishing you sad birthdays. I could have just said, you know, I said what I said. Said what I said, Chris.
But you know what I found really interesting about Nick Gage is how he said he was like influenced by the Japanese death matches with
Yeah.
and how he had specifically said about a match he saw between I think Terry Funk and Mick Foley. I thought that was interesting. I just feel like, you know, why didn't you take like I mean, because they know how to kind of I mean they go the limit, but I feel like they know how to rein it in. Where was the reining it in for you?
Yeah. And we all know that Mick Foley can go a little bit insane sometimes. I mean, a little, Isaac. I mean, it's fine. You know,
Yeah, you have
I mean, a little bit,
thank you.
just a little creepy. You know, just a little bit, but it's fine. I appreciate you for joining us on a Saturday. You know,
Thank
appreciate you.
you. Yes. Oh, okay.
But yeah, like we know. I mean, I've seen Terry Funk in a couple of death matches with like some Japanese. I can't think of the guy's name right now. I know John Moxley gave ode to him with that Bob Wire match in AEW. That you know, that was a bunch of nonsense. But he gave ode to because I can't think of the guy's name right now from Japan who did like death matches, and I'm like, I've seen a couple of his death matches, and he did it, and I was like, yikes, and oh, this like it hurts, and like I'm kind of worried, even though obviously the match happened years ago, and I'm just now seeing it, and I'm stressed about it. So I knew obviously the guy was fine, but I'm stressed about it, like oh my god. And then you know they still had a option to reel it in to an extent. Nick Gage really just be doing whatever, and people like yeah, oh my god, and then they'll just be, and I'm just like, but no, can we not?
Right.
Don't encourage to this level, because what if somebody gets hurt to the point where now a sorry or a fuck you or whatever it is that people are, you know, he says is not going to work. Now it's not going to work. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the level of like, we got to have some accountability here, you know?
Right. Exactly. That's what kind of like.
Oh, that's cool, Isaac. Cool.
Hey, that's awesome. Well, I mean,
to anybody who's wrestling, because it's not going to be me. Somebody kick me down or something, we fight for real. So just saying, like I can't take no
that's
bumps.
definitely not for me. I don't know if you saw a video on Twitter that's going viral. It kind of reminded me of the whole situation with you know, Nick Gage and how he set himself on fire and the stop, drop, and roll, but the stop, drop, and roll didn't work. And that was kind of what happened in this video on Twitter. I was like, oh man, isn't it funny that I saw this today? Like,
yeah, anybody who wrestles in general, like power to you guys. I cannot take a bump because I'm gonna really be ready to fight for real. Like storyline my ass, meet me right in the locker room. Like that's the vibes. So I'm just saying, anybody who can take a bump and like can sell a match, power to you guys. I just need people. Like I don't want to hear anybody dying super young because you guys are getting real crazy. It's always sad to hear somebody go really young, because you guys feel like, oh, the fans want us to get this crazy that now I'm kind of fucked up for real. Like the fans will be okay. They'll live. Like they'll be fine if you didn't go OD on this match. I think that's like my biggest thing with Nick Gage. Just like you can be crazy and you can be extreme or whatever it is that you feel like you're doing. And then, like I said, apparently there's a whole fandom for death matches. I just need it to like, I feel like with any story, even if it's like high flying type matches or technical matches, like, well, what is the story being told here? And I can never really get that with Nick Gage's matches. I don't really know what the story he's telling ever. And like I said, I could be wrong and maybe I'm missing something, but every time I've seen him, it was randomly just like he's doing a death match, and I'm like, well, where's the feud? And I was like, oh no, they just. I'm like, wait, but where's the feud? What is the feud here? Like, why are we getting to the death match stage? Yeah.
No, this is your first match. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know, but that's like it's a little much. But and I just feel like it goes beyond being trying to be edgy and extreme to just being negligent and unnecessary.
Yeah.
And that's what I got a lot of times.
So I know you had some thoughts about John Moxley and his little, comments about, Vince, because it always just have to happen. So I feel like this is your time to like
Like, he go on and come home because he know he miss us. He know he missed it. What in the world? How did any of this correlate with Vince? I'm like, you watch this whole episode and somehow you come to Vince? Why are we talking about Vince, period? You don't know this man. He don't head sign this man. Why are we talking about him?
Sorry, y'all. Motorcycles going past my window. No, I'm here or no. I wanted to, but only person I really cared about, honestly, is Shawn Michaels' episode, because that's Bay.
Same.
I don't care about anybody else on it. Honestly, don't care. So I don't know. Maybe I will just talk about Shawn Michaels and just like, listen, Shawn Michaels is everything, and here we are.
We might just do one special episode for Shawn Michaels because that's how great he is. Just do one random episode for Shawn Michaels just cause.
Right? To be like, listen, we didn't do no other AED episode or any episode. We're gonna do one now. Shawn, okay?
Right.
Well, I feel like I would not know anything, learn anything new in his episode, because I feel like I know everything I could probably know about Shawn Michaels.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, what else am I going to tell me?
But yeah, as far as the John Box comment, yeah, I didn't understand what was the purpose of mentioning Vince McMahon, and then he was just like, he wished he has like fans going this hard. I'm like, so we're gonna just ignore like The Rock wasn't a really big deal to people back then. Was Stone Cold not a really big deal to people back then, where the fans ate it up, like they loved him, and it was like to the point where even now, even though Stone Cold no longer wrestle, people still make the little what chants or whatever. Like clearly, he did something with the fan base that the fans were still like going.
Not even like old wrestlers. Have you gotten to an argument with a Sasha Banks fan on Twitter? Okay, listen.
But I've seen.
You talking about all the fans was as passionate. Get into an argument with a Sasha Banks fan on Twitter, and you come back to me and you tell me that. Tell me.
Yeah, I've seen how some of those fans are. I haven't argued because I try not to argue with fans online. But normally my arguments is always AEW fans, and they be the ones who want to send me like DMs, and I'm like, first of all, get the F out of my DM. I don't care that much. Like, I'm telling you, I don't care. Like, to the level of caring y'all have that your days that you're sending me theses in my DMs, don't do that. I don't like. I'm living my like. Guess what? They don't care about y'all. Like, they really don't. They're not sitting here like, oh, this one random fan on Twitter got on Katrina. Katrina said she didn't like the show. They don't care about me. They don't care that I don't watch this show. They still living their lives. Calm down, those fans.
Exactly.
So normally I try to avoid arguing with fans because they always be the ones that gotta just DM me some random shit, and I'm like, I didn't ask you for all of this because I don't care. Like, I really don't care. But I didn't understand. I feel like this is why I can't with the AEW people, because I'm like, y'all AEW people just can't, like, we didn't even hear about Vince McMahon at all. This had nothing to do with Vince McMahon. The whole episode was about this guy from GCW.
Right.
Talk about, if you want to say, like, oh, indie guys can't, like, you got to get a bunch of indie that guys superiors going this hard. I'm like, all right, maybe, like, the level people go for Nick Gage, I've seen it, like, intense, and it's insane. And I'm like, yeah, if you want to say a bunch of indie guys who can't get the fans like that, fine. But what do I have to do with anybody else? I have no idea. And I was just, it wasn't necessary. And I'm like, you know what? This is what I'm talking about. Like, I want to be nice to you guys sometimes, but then here we are with the shenanigans.
Right.
Because what does this have to do with Nick Gage and the crime? Like, and then what killed me was he wanted to say that and still didn't acknowledge the fact that your friend literally robbed the bank, and he was just like, haha, I saw his face uncovered. Like, that was a joke. And I'm like, so you didn't have nothing to say to him personally, but let's talk about Vincent Kennedy McMahon. That's where you like, that's where your line is.
That's what that is. You miss that man. It's okay. I know you got his number, baby. I know either you or Renee got the number. Call that man if you miss him like that. And you know what? I like him. I like John Moxley. I like him. You want to come back? Baby, we'll take you back. We'll open up and we'll take you back. You ain't got to do all that extra. We were going to take you. We love you. We miss you too.
Yeah, I actually was okay. I was okay with all 3 members of the Shield, honestly.
Literally.
I like all 3 of them. So, I mean, whatever, but I just can't, we not like every moment you guys have. It's just like, let's make a WWE reference. Like, no, I don't care. Like, can we not?
Right. It gets annoying after a while. It's like, okay, but what else do you have to bring to the table except for just talking about the same thing?
I just didn't understand what it had to do with Nick Gage. It was so random to say his fans. I'm like, yeah, if you was talking about like from a standpoint of indie fans, maybe, even though I would have to disagree because I've seen some indie wrestlers get really big pops from fans where you can like to the level of like hard, like into the wrestler on and the people are standing up the whole match type of vibes. I've seen it happen at plenty of shows between New York and New Jersey. So it's not like it doesn't exist. It does exist. But why bring that up right now randomly at the end of the episode? It's like, oh, by the way, he wished. Do he wish though? Like, I mean, do he? Is he really sitting here like, you know what, guys? In his board meeting, like, listen here, board members, we need to find a wrestler just like Nick Gage. I highly fucking doubt it. I highly doubt it. And let's not do the shenanigans. Like, don't do shenanigans.
Right.
Like this.
I'm looking at this episode like this is mess. Now I'm sitting here like.
Like let's not do the shenanigans. Like let's not irritate me on a Saturday. Like don't do that. Like I'm just like stop. Vince McMahon is not sitting here losing sleep over fucking Nick Gage. We're not like. And another thing that annoyed me because I saw this actually on Thursday when the episode first premiered, where people was calling him Kurt Angle. I was like, what we're not gonna do right now is we're not gonna be rude. Like don't you sit like Kurt Angle. If he's Kurt Angle, I'm Brock Lesnar. Let's not do that. Like, I was really annoyed. I was like, what we're not gonna do is, I get you could be a fan. I understand fandoms, but I'm never that ridiculous of a. I'm never gonna be sitting there with the most calmest face and be like, oh, he's Kurt Angle. Where? Kurt Angle? What? Yes, Ron. I swear to everything on Twitter. This person legit said Nick Gage was Kurt Angle, and I had to sign off for the rest of the day. I was annoyed. I was just like, you know what? You don't want me on Twitter today, Lord. This was the sign. Thank you. I'll get the fuck off. And that's what I did. Because shenanigans. Like, if he's Kurt Angle, I am a big white dude named Brock Lesnar. That's what just happened. Okay? Y'all watching it happen right now. All of a sudden.
I'm like, let's chill out here, okay, guys? Like,
I was like, can we not be delusional? Like, don't do that. Like, if you want to like Nick Gage, by all means do you. But don't call him no damn Kurt Angle. Like Kurt Angle's one of the best wrestlers we ever had. Like
100% one of the best technical wrestlers I've ever seen.
I literally that was my cue to get off Twitter. I was like, you know what, universe, you want me to go enjoy my time with my kids. Let me just get the fuck off Twitter. Like, that's what that meant.
Nana wants to be Undertaker. I agree. Yep, you're Undertaker. It's okay.
I mean, if we're doing the shenanigans, Oh, well, no, personally, I use shenanigans for a lot of things. So things that don't make no sense and is foolery, it will be shenanigans. Like, I don't do the shenanigans. I don't. I say this word a lot.
There was a lot of shenanigans in this episode. There was a lot of shenanigans.
All the time with the shenanigans. And no. Katrina don't got time for that. Okay, we don't. I don't. So for me, shenanigans is literally just foolery and malarkey and all that stuff that makes no sense. Because that made no sense to me. I was like, Kurt Angle. Okay, I heard you, universe. I'm just gonna sign off today. I'll be back tomorrow.
This is your time.
Yeah. I was like, don't want me to argue today. I was like, I don't want to argue with people because I would have like argued. We're joking, right? Like this was serious. You dead ass say. This is what you really thought. Like you really took the time to type this and put this into the internet. I mean, I guess. I mean, on
purpose at that. Like it wasn't a misclick. This is on purpose.
No, this was typed up. I was like, no, seriously. I'm just gonna sign up and come back on Friday. That's what that means.
And if you remember the person, you go back and it's still there. I don't know.
I hope like it was a random person. Sometimes you just randomly see tweets on Twitter, and I just happened to see that, and I was like, wait, what? I was like, yep. Just instead of you saying something sarcastic, that was the first thought process would be very sarcastic. I was like, I'm just gonna sign off because. They don't need this today. Like I don't need this to do this to myself today. Get myself
you don't argue with people like that. You gotta let them just be. Let them stay in their bubble. Don't argue with that because that is something.
Listen. So, what are your like overall thoughts of like the show in general, as far as like the episode?
Mess. No, I'm sorry. But I mean, I respect that he's really passionate about what he does. Is it my cup of tea? Death matches? Not really. But I mean, I respect that he is invested in it, and I have super respect for Brett Lauderdale, the owner of GCW. Just absolute great human being. It sucks that a lot of times his niceness was taken for granted, but still, I just want to point that out because I feel like we have to say an MVP. Like last time, the MVP was Linda.
Yes,
The MVP
was MVP. Great poker story.
Love that guy.
Yes, I'm gonna have to agree. Like I said, I respect any wrestler in general because I can't do any of that. I'm not gonna act like I can do any of that. I'm not fuck storyline, fuck feud. If I get hurt, I'm really gonna be upset and we really gonna be fighting. So
Right.
I personally cannot do any of that. So respect to him, like he's not doing drugs anymore. So I'm glad you got rid of that. That's always a good thing if you can get rid of a drug thing. And I'm hoping he's working on his mental health because I do think that's actually an important thing. People need to embrace that sometimes we need help and you need to talk to people, whatever you need to do.
Right.
And I'm glad that in 2021, the stigma for mental health awareness is not as bad as it was, let's say, 5 years ago. Right. So I appreciate that he admitted that. But I also think that I'm hoping he goes on in the future with some more accountability because he really was just like, fuck it. And I'm just like, but we're going to have to ignore that some of this was because of you. Like, you got kicked out of houses because you was doing bad things. Most people get kicked out for these type of things. And yes, as you said, Brett was definitely the MVP and a better friend. Like I consider myself a good friend where I will probably go out of my way for a lot of people.
Right.
There's no way though, like that much level of things. I'm gonna be like, I still got you. I might have to be like, I might have to chill with my friendship. And I consider myself somebody who will really go out of like, I feel like I would go out of my way for a lot of people. If I consider them close friend, I would do whatever I can. But there's a level of you. Let's not be just. You're not gonna take my friendship kindness and then keep doing shenanigans as he was doing the whole time. So I hope there's some more accountability and that even if he feels like he has to keep doing this, I don't know how old he is now, but live enough where you're safe. Like I feel like I get wanting to entertain the fans, but God forbid you go and pass away. God forbid, those fans will move the fuck on to the next deathmatch person, and you won't be here anymore. So just be safe. And if you're gonna like do those matches, please don't do things to be petty because I feel like the David Arquette thing was to be petty as fuck.
I would for that. Like
I felt like just being petty. You're right. You're right because I don't. We don't do those. Like you me for real, and like okay
for that. I don't understand to this. I'm still confused. I'm like, what did he say? Something when he bought you dinner? Did something like the food not taste good? Did not go down correctly? That you just had this anger and you wanted to chop his face, even though he asked you not to.
Run. Apparently so. Apparently so. Apparently we are getting Kurt Angle is just all over the place. Apparently. In all aspects of wrestling. We just got the high flying Kurt Angle. We got the luchador Kurt Angle, apparently. Apparently they're just all over, according to these people on Twitter. But yeah, overall, it wasn't I still honestly questioned why that was an episode because I didn't understand why I was like, what, of all the people we can do wrestling stories on, let's go for Nick Gage. I do not understand it. But I guess I get it if you're trying to get a little inside look to one of the craziest deathmatch people. I'm guessing I get it, whatever.
Right.
And I'm hoping he gets to continue his life. And if this is what you do and you like doing it, just be safe about it and don't be so petty because they're gonna tell me he wasn't being petty. I believe he was being petty. Yes. And I am looking forward to the next. I think it's the Korean episode.
Yeah, Collision in Korea. Yep.
And I'm interested to see the inside stories to those shenanigans because clearly when they showed a little clip for it and I was like, okay, well some shit really did go the level you could tell when something about to get real juicy and then they cut the clip off and everybody's like, oh, you gotta wait till the episode. That's the vibe I got. That's the vibe I got from that little clip. Like, oh, this about to get real. Like, this is gonna be the shit.
I'm excited to watch it and see everything. I'm excited.
So I'm interested for the next episode. So I think we should do plugs, right? What comes? See, UPR got all this stuff happening, and I'm like completely unaware. So I know there's, I don't, ours is anybody. I don't know if anybody is doing the Backlash thing. I don't know if there's going to be a show for that because.
I don't know if there's going to be a review per se, but I do know that on the Instagram there will be a predictions at 8:00 today. Yes.
Nice. So check IG people. I know there's I'm gonna assume somebody will probably do a review show for Backlash. I feel like they normally do review shows, pay-per-views. And then you have Monday Night Raw. You have AEW. I mean, I guess. You have NXT with Shayna. You have NXT. You have SmackDown, and I know UPR have their entertainment section as well. Though I have no idea what the schedule is because they have a lot of stuff happening, and there's too much for me to remember. And you guys know you can catch me on In Cat We Trust. It is on YouTube. You catch me. I do quite a few different things on there. It is not just all wrestling. I legit am like a total nerd on that channel. So I talk about like everything nerdy is on there. So you catch me there. And you guys, thank you guys for joining us on a Saturday. It's like a nice day outside, and you guys chose to stay inside and hear us talk about shenanigans.
Yes.
And and Nick Gage. So appreciate y'all so much.
We'll be back again. Same time, same place.
For the next episode. Bye guys.